sometimes that's a good thing. We have 5 albums. People love those albums. Hey, man, the Beatles were only a band for 10 years. And sometimes that's all you get. We're still playing live, which we all enjoy. I love getting in front of an audience and playing these songs. And because we do it infrequently, it's always fun.
Nerd Reactor, roll out.
Trying to see what you have there. Are action figures or toys?
Action figures, statues, some
Couple of vinyls.
Funko Pops, Transformers,
You
Witcher stuff. Yeah. I need
man. It's all making money over here, baby.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. you gotta have the suit and tie and all that.
I'm the cleaner, man.
Yeah. All right. Yay, John, how's it going? And how's everything? And
not too shabby.
Yeah. You got the new the comic book series coming out, Dead Samurai, and I was like, John, the drummer, has a comic book, and I'm like doing a dive and like, you did the you got your own like comic book store and all that, and I'm like, this guy, I like this guy already.
Yeah, we're probably kindred spirits in a lot of ways. I love comics, I love toys. I'm sure that we collect a lot of the same stuff. I even like manga.
Yeah. And I went to Comic-Con and I did the autograph for Ninja Turtles, and I was like looking at Kevin Eastman. I saw the box, like Torpedo Comics, and then I didn't think much of it. Torpedo Comics, like Torpedo Comics, it's like a comic book brand. And then later I was like, your name's attached to it. I was like, oh damn, look at that.
I mean, this was a while ago then.
Yeah.
Yeah, we for a long time we were having different artists and writers come to the store, do signings, and then we would do like mystery boxes and all kinds of stuff with their leftover products that, because we'd have them sign several hundred things for us after the customers and our regulars would come get their stuff signed, and then we get a bunch of stuff signed and do mystery boxes, all kinds of cool stuff.
Yeah, no, I love that. The whole just bringing in talent, having them signed. Like, you're in it. You're deep in that comic book culture.
So, well, I figured it was a way for me to meet all these really cool artists, and also bring something to the table for the people in Vegas. I think Vegas gets a little bit of a bad rap, but it's not what it was 30, 40 years ago. There's millions of people that have nothing to do with the casino business. They're just living normal lives there, and a lot of really good people that patronize our shop. A lot of big fans, and it's people like us, man, that like collect stuff and enjoy it. And I think that the people that are into pop culture in general, comic books especially, are really gentle souls and, generally speaking, super nice people.
Yeah. And now you're doing a comic book, writing a comic book series. I'm not sure if you've done it before or this is your first time, but yeah, tell me more about that and getting into Dead Samurai.
So this is actually my second comic book. The first one is Essentia, and that's like a much bigger world. It's tons of characters. It's kind of like Game of Thrones level as far as how many characters there are and how many places it goes. And the story arc starts in 1912 and ends basically around 2100. So it's a really expansive series, big world. This is kind of the polar opposite of that. Dead Samurai is specifically about one character, Sorry, man, my phone is blowing up all day, but if it interrupts, I apologize. It's specifically about this one character. His name is Shinzu. It's set in feudal Japan in the mid 1600s. And this character, Shinzu, is half Japanese, half Portuguese. You may or may not know this, but Portugal was a huge trading partner of China and Japan. In fact, they were basically the only conduit for the silk market at that time. So, China and Japan didn't really get along very well. They would act as the intermediaries, and they generated this prosperous kind of three-way business transaction for many, many years. So he is the product of the love of a Japanese kind of aristocrat and a Portuguese captain. And the captain goes off, and we don't know what happens to him, probably dies at sea. But she's left to raise this child, and he's basically ostracized his whole life for not really fitting into either culture. You know, he's not fully accepted by the Portuguese, he's not fully accepted by the Japanese. But through sheer will and perseverance and his personal character, he achieves the highest level that a samurai in his particular daimyo's province can achieve, which is to be the bodyguard of his feudal lord, you know, and he achieves this. But he fails in his duty to protect this feudal lord and their family because there's a zombie outbreak, and it's leprosy based. So it's like this form of leprosy that infects your brain and kind of makes you animalistic, and not a zombie in some of the traditional senses, but more like a human who just has very low cognitive reasoning, no moral compass, no nothing, and it's all about eating and surviving. So they'll do anything, they'll kill anything. A rat, a baby, a peasant. It doesn't matter to them. It's just food, right?
Yeah.
It's nothing personal, but they want to survive, and that's their instinct. So it's the base of human instinct is in play here. So he is about to commit suicide because he has failed in his duty and he's honor bound to commit suicide, seppuku. And before he has a chance to do that, he discovers that the youngest daughter is still alive. So now his mission has changed, right? Like now he has to protect this ward, get her to safety, and then maybe he'll commit suicide at that point to honor his lord.
Yeah.
And it becomes kind of like a Three Musketeers adventure where they meet some friends along the way, they meet some enemies along the way, and they're trying to get to this safe haven that they learn about, not knowing whether or not it's actually safe or not. And as a reader, you're not going to know either until we actually get there.
And I want to talk about the art in this. I really like the artwork. Just the line work. It's by what is it? Ryan Benjamin, right?
Yeah,
And
he's superb.
yeah.
I met him through my good friend Jim Lee years ago at Wildstorm, and we've been looking for a way to work together. He's so into this this era of Japan as well. So it worked out perfectly. Like I've been kind of trying to get him to do stuff for me for a long time, but he's, great artists are always sought after and busy. Like it's tough to get them. Marvel and DC snatch them up pretty readily.
Mm-hmm.
But when I told him the concept, he was like 100% in right away. He got excited, which is always what you want to hear. Then I secured Bill Sienkiewicz to do all the covers, the primary covers. So this is only going to be 6 or 7 issues, maybe 8, in total, depending on how long it takes me to tell the story. Bill's going to do all the main covers. Then I got a bunch of friends: Jim Lee, Frank Cho, Art Adams. They're all going to do variants, which would be really cool.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
I like variants and I like art, so the more the better. And then I can snag the original art from these guys at a decent price. But the main thing is, man, I just want to write something that I would enjoy reading, and hopefully one day this will get picked up and made into a movie.
Oh yeah.
You know, like
Are you
I
seeing
said, I
live
would love.
action or animation?
I want it to be live action. There's some really cool animation already done.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want to take away from that. This needs to be a live action. It could be practical effects. It could be shot in mostly in forests and small villages and stuff like that. And it could be done, I think, at a decent budget. But we don't need big CGI. We don't need anything. It's a lot of dialogue, a lot of introspection, and character development is important to me. So it's a lot about the characters, and I want people to be able to relate to them because I've taken different personality traits I have and close friends and put them into these characters. So
Mm-hmm.
they should be relatable for most people.
Oh yeah. And how do you feel now with the whole? I feel like we have another renaissance of just the love for like samurai stuff, especially with shows like Shogun, and we have like Blue
Yeah.
Eye Samurai,
Yep.
and it's like I feel like it's never gonna die. People's gonna keep on watching it, just like people are gonna watch Western movies, etc.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's always going to be interesting. It's always going to be interesting. It's always going to be sought after. And if you can write compelling story, people are always going to want to read it or watch it. It's when It's when people stray away from the story and make it just about the visuals that you tend to have a problem. But I think because of the technology and it's fairly new, I can understand why people are doing that, right? Like they're relying more on it. You know, if you have a superpower, you're going to rely on that superpower and not the foundations of everything else. You know, but my belief has always been start with a great, compelling story, great characters, and then you can develop the visuals after that.
And with the just writing the story, how are you like in terms of researching, and like are you the type that would research as you write, or you just write it off first and then try to see try to make it like as accurate as possible?
Well, I know a lot already. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
thanks to James Clavell, I read that Shogun book about 20 times. So he
There you
did a
go.
ton of research, and I've been the beneficiary of that. But if there's anything I have a question on, I just look it up. You know, we live in the information age, and it's super easy to find the information. And I try to make it as authentic as possible. You know, not everything is going to be authentic, but as authentic as possible. And then
Like zombies.
something, well, zombies don't really exist, but these days neither do samurais. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
let's
And I like,
face it.
yeah, and I like how you did the zombie aspect. Try to ground it like almost like let's how do we make it as realistic as possible? Because it reminds me of not Last Samurai, but The Last of Us, where they try to like have their own version of their zombies, and like how do we make this happen in our world with the cordyceps of the thing that spreads. So
Yeah.
I'm liking that.
So it is transmitted via bite, blood, etc. It's not an airborne thing. So it's got the traditional zombie esque thing, but I based mine on leprosy because leprosy was prevalent during those times. You know, it was much more common than it is now. So I figured like there was a strain of leprosy that infected the brain and made you animalistic, and it was spreadable via blood or bite. You know, because you got to make it so that it spreads. Otherwise, it's easily dealt with because even though they have a lot of human traits and strength and normal, abilities, they don't use weapons. You know, they're not intelligent in by way of planning. They don't work together. You know, except just by sheer numbers. So there has to be an advantage for them, and that advantage is in close combat. You might end up swelling their ranks. You know, and especially if people don't know, which they don't initially, they're going to be fighting as if it's normal fighting, not knowing that they're at great jeopardy, and archers are going to do very well against them. Let's put it that way.
Oh yeah. And so you've done different settings, right? But they're all like in the past. Anything where you want to do like in a future project, like modern day or anything like, because I feel like they're all fantasy. Anything you want to do like just like modern times with your background in music?
Yeah, no, everything I do is pretty much it's fantasy derivative, sci-fi fantasy, um, horror, I guess a little bit in this genre. That samurai could fit into horror as well. I'm not a big fan of or TV shows or books that are of the times, and I'll watch them occasionally, but I kind of get bored by them. I like the supernatural, I like the mythological, the fantasy derivative stuff. To me, it's interesting because it doesn't exist. It had to come out of somebody's brain,
Yeah.
and I like that. And I watch movies like Train Spotting and Lost in Translation and everything, and they're entertaining, but they just don't do it for me in the same way as like Lord of the Rings would,
Oh
you
yeah.
know,
So let's say
or 30 Days After or whatever
30
the hell.
days after.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's say you wouldn't want to have a biopic of your band like in modern times. Like I'm trying to think of like, let's say if that were to happen, something like fantastical, right?
Yeah. No, I don't mind biopics. I enjoy documentaries,
Yeah.
although I don't think people are really honest in them, just like people are really not that honest in interviews. They're
Hmm.
honest to a point, but
Yeah.
at the end of the day, you're trying to reach a broad audience, and that's the goal. I try to be as honest as possible. Like whatever I'm telling you, I would tell to somebody that I was just explaining what my book's about,
Yeah.
um, not trying to curry favor, just being honest about it, and
Yeah.
people are going to gravitate towards it if they do or they don't. Just like my music, like I never played music or made music to please anyone but myself.
Hmm.
The fact that it pleased other people was just a benefit or like a positive side effect of it. That's kind of the same thing here. I'm writing a comic book that I would enjoy. If it becomes a movie or TV series, that's a blessing. And but I want to make even that would have to be something that I would enjoy watching first, and then we'll allow other people to enjoy it.
Oh yeah. And I don't know if you've watched the trailer for Better Man. That one's
I have.
yeah, that one I like the idea of the monkey. Just it's like very fantastical. So like with Robbie
Okay.
Williams, like he's a monkey now. And
Okay. I'll check it out.
yeah, check it out because I like this is a great concept of trying to do a biopic, but now he's a monkey, but then they can like just do whatever they want. Just kind of, or the Weird Al biopic, like that's such a parody of his life. But it's like a different take. It's very much fun for the artist to do instead of just something like straight up drama.
Yeah, no, I like it. As long as people are pushing, boundaries and trying to outdo themselves and are creative, even if it isn't exactly what I'm into, it could be inspirational, and isn't that really why we do everything too? Like we want to inspire the same love of art in other people,
Yeah,
and that's part of it too. So I guess when I say I don't do it for other people, I don't do it for other people, but if I can inspire other people in any way to just try to achieve something that is their dream to achieve, you know writing is a pleasure for me. I love doing it, but I don't see myself ever directing or stuff like that. It's just not fun for me, you
yeah,
know. But I would enjoy watching a documentary about Steven Spielberg and what motivated him. What did he do to succeed that other people that were coming up at the same time, that went to his film school at the same time that he did, what did they do? And why didn't they succeed? To me, that's super interesting because I know, like, I've played with a bunch of different people musically, and I know why they didn't succeed. There's three or four factors. One, they didn't have the talent. Two, they didn't put the effort into it. Three, they didn't stick with it. And four, they had something to fall back on. And I never had something to fall back on. I was either going to succeed or fail, but it was going to be 100% of my effort one way or the other.
yeah. And with just because you're a busy man, you're doing all this stuff, all these projects, right? And how do you find time to try to, let's say, balance? Because there's a lot of fans that just want you and System of a Down to just keep on doing uh, just the music forever. And I don't know,
Yeah.
like how you feel right now on trying to continue that, or you're trying to focus on like the more the comic book side.
Well, we haven't made an album since 2005. If the guys wanted to make an album, I'm 100% in. I always have been, but I don't see it happening. There is a rift artistically as far as making new material that may not be able to be bridged in our lifetime. In hindsight, I think people will regret these decisions. And I do believe we have left something on the table, but sometimes that's a good thing. We have 5 albums. People love those albums. Hey, man, the Beatles were only a band for 10 years. And sometimes that's all you get. We're still playing live, which we all enjoy. I love getting in front of an audience and playing these songs. And because we do it infrequently, it's always fun.
Yeah, and yeah, because you guys perform live this year, right? And
Our world tour this year consisted of 2 shows.
yeah,
And as of right now, we have no shows booked for next year, but there is stuff coming.
yeah.
That's all I
So
can say about it.
but yeah, but at least there's always something. So at least fans that want to go, they can still watch you guys perform. And so like, I want to know, just like in terms of the creative process, anything differently in terms of like when you're writing, like a story versus, just songs.
It's a completely different process. The writing, things take shape over time. So I'll think about it a long time before I actually sit down and write anything. And I'll think about the concept and I'll kind of go over it in my head from beginning to end. For Essentia, I have like probably decades of story to tell, and I know how it's going to end already. I know what happens next year, the year after that. Then you got to sit down and figure out dialogue and like the everyday stuff and how do you get to that point, right? But it's the same as taking a long walk. You know where your destination is. There's a lot of steps in between, and you don't know which rocks you're going to have to navigate around, or if there's going to be a dog or somebody else walking, and you figure it out as you go. Writing is a lot like that. Drumming is completely different. Um, I've spent a long time developing my technique. I have a long list of influences that I can pull from, So somebody will bring me a song they've written, I will listen to it, and very quickly I'll start forming the beats in my head. And then after I've heard it a few times, I'll play something. And then about 2 weeks later, it's solidified.
Yeah. And with I think like every year, the comic book culture is getting bigger, and you've been to Comic Con,
Yep.
and yeah, you're friends with all the talent, the big
A lot
talent,
of them, yeah.
and
That I don't like, but
so so where do you see yourself, like, other than writing? You see other projects you want to tackle, like, from a different perspective?
I really like writing right now, and that's what putting my I'm putting my eggs in that basket. I do have other ideas. I don't know if in 5 years I'm going to want to do something else. Maybe I want to produce something. Maybe I'll be involved in helping to make one of these things I'm writing into a movie or a TV series, and then have to work with other people, which I'm good at. I like working with other people, but I may have to be in a situation where I sit down with three or four other writers and let them kind of delve into this world that I've created from their perspective. You know, as long as it makes sense and they understand who the characters are, and what their motivations for things would be, I would love for other people to take a crack at some of my characters and some of the worlds that I built. I think that'd be a lot of fun.
And do you have any idea on, like, who you would want for directors?
No, not really. Um, I think the best comic book movie, or my favorite, is Watchmen. I mean, shit, if I can get Christopher Nolan to do Essentia, you know,
Yeah.
that'd be a dream. He's my number one pick for Essentia, but Zack Snyder would be amazing for Essentia as well, because I think they would get it. Um, for Dead Samurai, I don't know. I don't know. I don't really care. Let's just get somebody that loves it and is good with cinema. Cinematography is very important. The visuals, it's got to look a certain way. It's got to be really, really vivid. I don't want to make a dark world. I want dark things happening in a bright world.
Oh yeah. So yeah. So I get where you're coming from, in terms of, like, as long as the director or the visionary can see what you see and capture that, and so it doesn't matter, like, who it is, as long as they can pull off the job.
Yeah, and also, you know, put their vibe in it. Like like I said, I love working with other people, and a lot of times. Sorry, one sec.
No
A
problem.
lot of times, you'll put in something, and you're looking at the building from your perspective, and somebody else looking at it from a different angle. They see a different perspective, and getting those things and bringing them together are advantageous to you as an artist. It's not like a painting. Painter that paints a painting, they have to stand on their own. But when you're working in a band, a football team, making a movie, making a TV series, you need to have different artistic abilities and rely on them and bring them together and form something together. You're stronger because of it.
Yeah. And I think for my last question, I just want to ask you, in terms of, for Dead Samurai, right? Let's say Shinzu, uh, if he can, if he can be, like, in any, like, different periods in life other than the feudal Japan, what do you think would be, like, the most interesting?
Well, I do have plans for it to continue on in time. So there could easily be a European dead samurai, right? And he could end up in the Wild West in America in the 1800s. Not necessarily Shinzu, but as the story progresses, and you can have it in like modern times. It could be like a 4 or 5 movie thing. You know, I just don't think it should be all in feudal Japan. It has to progress somewhere else.
But still with the same world, with the whole just that world, but following different characters.
It's kind of like Resident Evil before they fucked it up.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, you have like different. Yeah. Leon Kennedy, Chris Redfield, different characters, but it's still in that universe where the zombies are like just spread
Right.
out.
But now maybe there's a point where we've learned to live with them, and we
Yeah.
don't, we look at it like it's just part of life. I'm not sure. I haven't written it yet, but
Yeah.
it could go there.
But I can see like a dead samurai video game now. There you go.
Oh yeah, dude, easily,
Yeah.
easily. It's like tailor made.
But yeah, John, I just want to say it's been a pleasure chatting with you, and I can't wait to read the rest of the issues. And yeah, can't wait.
All right, thanks, man. Thanks for doing the interview. Appreciate it.
Oh yeah, yeah. Take care.
All right, bye bye.